Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the MedEd Well podcast, where physicians come to be encouraged and challenged in their wellness journey to take that next step, whether that's mindset or something else, because I want you to grow. I want physicians to be leaders in their clinical space, to be present with those that they care about outside of work, both at home, with friends, with family, and whatever matters to you. I'm so thankful for all of you who have engaged with these concepts, who have been listening and sharing these episodes. I really want this to be what you need. So if you haven't already done this, I'd love for you to leave a review, to send me a message and let me know how this has impacted you in your life. I heard from someone even just this past week about how they had taken steps to change their ergonomics at work. And it really made a big impact for me, knowing that it was something that I had talked about back on episode 8, I think, that was still having an impact for them. So today, we're going to be talking all about the feelings that fuel us. Why do we do the things that we do? How do feelings keep us stuck or help us move forward? And how do I get from here to there? And why we even have to get in touch with our feelings in the first place? So in my last solo episode, I talked more about life coaching generally. And previously, we talked briefly about feelings. But yeah, I wanted to go into this a little bit more deeply to show you how feelings really drive all of our actions, what we do, what motivates us. Feelings that could include feeling happy, sad, mad, frustrated, proud, anxious, maybe defensive or worried. In particular situations, maybe we have multiple feelings. We have thoughts about our feelings. And a lot of times we think that our feelings are caused by our circumstances. So today, we're talking about feelings. In my life coach school training, Brooke Castillo, the founder of the Life Coach School, describes feelings as a vibration in our body caused by a sentence in our mind. And essentially, that thought then generates feelings. It's a sentence in the mind that causes a sensation in the body. When you ask someone, for instance, my daughter, how they're feeling, you may get some thoughts. They may say, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm stressed, or this is stressful, I'm angry about this. But it's important to tease out what are thoughts and what are feelings. Could be feelings of anger, joy, relief. And these feelings, when you really get in touch with how your body is experiencing these feelings, it may show up as particular tension or an energy in our bodies. Depends on how each of us experiences it. And these feelings are not just from unconscious thoughts, those automatic ones. We also want to feel things. And so we work to generate those feelings. So first we have what are feelings? We talked about that sentence in the mind leading to a sensation in the body. But then secondly, how do feelings drive us to do things? We think that accomplishing something, a particular result, will get us the typically positive feeling that we are desiring, whether it's feeling happy or proud, accomplished, having peace, joy, feeling relaxed. But often, if we're not yet to that result that we think will give us that feeling, or maybe circumstances change and that result isn't even possible currently, we think a lot of times it's, I'll take this on myself and say, for me, a lot of times it's easy to think that a particular feeling is out of reach. But after going through coaching and seeing how these things work, really, these feelings are available now. And it's about taking the time to hold on to some intentional thoughts that allow us to then get to those feelings. Because circumstances don't create our feelings. Our thoughts about those circumstances are what create those feelings and then allow us to take those actions to get the results that we're looking for. So it's important to slow down and to think about, what thought do I need to get to a particular feeling? I can tell myself I am a good doctor, which can then be useful to generate self-confidence. I can then take actions, reading articles, how I care for my patients, how I communicate with family members and other consultants, ultimately generating the result of me being a good doctor. But if I wait to say, oh, maybe I'm a medical student and I'm not a doctor yet. And so I can't have that self-confidence because I've never done that before, or I'm not to that point yet. That arrival fallacy of thinking when I'm there, I will feel a certain way. When I have achieved passing my boards, graduating residency, buying that house, getting to a new job, being able to cut back on my time, as opposed to living in those feelings of joy, of peace, of self-confidence right now because of intentional thoughts that I'm choosing to have. And there may be times that there are circumstances that are not what any of us would have wanted, but even in the midst of that, the thoughts and how we deal with those situations can allow us to have productive feelings that help us move forward. So we'll come back to productive and indulgent emotions in a little bit. But these intentional thoughts, that's all well and good, but each of us lives much of our life in the automatic, the natural, the unintentional thoughts, which many times can leave us experiencing a host of other feelings apart from the joy, peace, self-confidence. But it's important to note that life has both positive and negative emotions. I wouldn't know what happiness or joy really was like if I only experienced that emotion. And we think that it should be mostly positive feelings. And it's easy for many, myself included, to try and resist or try and escape negative feelings, which can lead to various things such as buffering or other things we use to distract ourselves or try and get away from that negative feeling, which we'll cover in a future episode. But only as we learn to experience our feelings, to see how that resonates in our body and realize that maybe the feeling we think we're having is actually a little bit different. And there are unintentional thoughts behind both these positive and negative emotions. And then by allowing some of those emotions, we can then choose, as we come to awareness of where we're at, how we want to have intentional thoughts to help us move forward. So we've covered so far what are feelings. Second, how feelings drive us to do things, how we want something, we want to feel a certain way, and so we let that drive us. And this can be a really good thing when we want to feel that feeling of joy or of love, so that we can take those actions to be able to build a better relationship, to be able to build a better career, to grow as a physician. to grow as a human being who cares for others. So we said first, feelings. Feelings, they drive us to do things. And third, I want to go into what kinds of feelings are helpful versus indulgent and maybe unproductive. So typically, these indulgent emotions have behind them some sort of automatic or unintentional thoughts. These feelings often feel good in the moment, but they don't help us move forward. These could include things like feeling confused, overwhelmed, pity, anxiety, self loathing, feeling defensive, and feeling pleasure. For instance, when I'm confused, it's an excuse that allows me to remain stuck and not to seek out some feeling, some thought that allows me to be curious, to have a feeling of curiosity, that allows me to take new actions to say, how might I do something? So confusion can be an indulgent emotion and it's unproductive. Maybe I feel pity and I wallow on what I wish I could have had, on a decision I wish I would have made 2 years ago or 10 minutes ago, and how I am desiring what I can't have because it's not the situation that I'm currently in. Maybe another indulgent emotion is feeling defensive or anxious. And I may cling to routines or things that are particularly familiar or safe, whether that's how I show up for my kids and safety as a pediatrician, or how I'm maybe a little bit more cautious on the roads. But if I'm honest with myself, really some of these things end up holding me back. On the other hand, there's useful or productive emotions that are often generated from some sort of intentional thoughts. And these are things that ultimately are able to serve us and lead to action. It may include feelings like feeling inspired, love, thoughtfulness, feeling determined, focused, creative. Even discomfort and fear can be useful and productive emotions. Now, some of these aren't particularly positive feelings, but as we're able to think the thoughts that allow us to get there and then experience, say, the discomfort, we can intentionally take action. Discomfort, in particular, each of us in medicine knows this from studying for exams and boards along the way. You may be able to find other examples, whether it's working out, building relationships with a family member or with a partner. And I think this is definitely an episode that you're going to want to go back and evaluate how you're showing up in your own life and reflecting on your own experience in the past and how discomfort and fear and feeling determined, how those things have showed up for you in the past and where you might want to go in this new year. For me, in 2023, my word is discomfort. I want to experience more discomfort. And when I initially, this word came to me, I was a little bit taken aback. I was like, really? But it's actually important for me because I want to grow. And so if I'm staying in my comfort zone, if I'm staying safe, I'm not experiencing the discomfort that will allow me to then be able to take action. Actions that maybe I haven't done before because I want results that are different than I currently have been getting. I want to go beyond my comfort zone and get those results. I want to do that with my physical fitness, with my business, with my marriage and my parenting. So that's me. But what about you? What productive emotions do you want to cultivate this year? What thoughts are you going to have to think in order to get there? Maybe what indulgent emotion do you want to increasingly let go of? Maybe it's overwhelm and confusion. Maybe it's something else. For me, as a new homeowner, I've had to work on this in the past year myself, having to choose curiosity and to grow into various home projects and getting things done and doing it myself. It's also been an opportunity to remember that I am one person and I can't do it all myself. And so enlisting others whose expertise is there has definitely been a good thing to learn, especially when it came to the heater and the gas line. Wasn't messing with that. So again, maybe for you it's overwhelm, but maybe it's not with tasks around the home, but maybe it's around your charting. Maybe you've been telling yourself, I can't catch up. I can't chart in the room. And this queue of messages will never get smaller. Now, if that's you, I want you to join me for coaching to help you finish charting faster and get home sooner with all your work done so that you can be present for what matters most to you. I want you to click the link in the show notes to learn more. The doors are going to close for the current cohort a little over a week from when this episode debuts. And though there will be more opportunities in the future, I just don't want you to miss out now on this opportunity to take a step forward, to allow those feelings of overwhelm, to look at, to examine what are the thoughts, those stories that you're telling yourself that are holding you back. Because you live in that overwhelm, that sense of dread, feeling anxious, rather than a feeling of self-confidence, of peace, of how am I going to get this done and take great care of my patients and get home sooner for what matters most to me. I want you to come and join me and discover how your feelings can actually help you with your charting so that you can get the results that you want. I can't wait to hear how this episode has impacted you, whether with your charting or in your life. I want you to reach out and let me know what you have learned and what action you want to take going forward. I want to thank you for joining me today on this episode of the MedEd Well podcast. I want to encourage you, if you haven't already, to leave a review and to share this episode with a colleague. Each of us has so much to offer the world, our families, our colleagues, our friends, and our patients. I can't wait to hear how you are taking your next step forward and making a difference today. Thanks so much for all that you do, and have a great day.